The power behind the current Aries stellium with the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Neptune there is just incredible. It radiates plenty of energy and it's got just the right amount of brutality and discomfort to keep you moving. And when you go outside, you feel it immediately. The exposure that happens, it's bright, everything is in plain sight, it burns a little, and yet I cannot stay out of the sun. I want to be there bathing in the light as often as I can because some things are worth the burn. And to me, that's the core signature of this new lunar month. It's a lot like tasting great food, for example, that's too hot and it burns your tongue, but you keep eating because it's the best thing you've had in months. That's Aries. Contact with life at full intensity always asks for a small sacrifice or a great sacrifice. There's no clean, untouched joy, you could say, not the real kind anyway. And the ruler of this new moon is Mars, and he offers the gift of friction. Mars is focused on what's happening outside, and lets it clash with what's going on within. It's Mars who gives us the impulse to do something to solve that conflict between the inner and outer world. And the desire for healthy competition arises, the kind of competition that builds the impossible, right? And it can drive you half mad, actually, when you see what's possible out there and compare it to what you're doing. I always say the fastest road to sadness is to compare yourself with others. But right now, I have to say, is the perfect time to look at what others are doing. And instead of letting that pull you down or shrink you, let it pull you up and sharpen you instead, right? And if it's not good enough, try again. And you might hear Saturn's uncomfortable voice saying that it's not good enough what you're doing. But that's because in Aries, Saturn doesn't care what you're already good at. That's not interesting at all, is it? We're called to take a very close look at what we've been avoiding because maybe we think it's too difficult. Maybe it's too tedious or pointless, even. Yada, yada, yada. Excuses, excuses. Mars and Saturn together have the power to get things done, to hammer things into shape, and you don't get to walk away halfway through. And here's where I would go as far as to say that if you resist and choose not to act at this point, don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, this new Aries moon will simply disappear as long as you stay patient. No, I don't think this energy does just disappear, right? If you reject it, it's probably going to turn inward and the momentum turns into agitation, frustration, and sometimes even physical inflammation, right? Very typical for Aries. So now you're faced with a choice that isn't really a choice, I guess. If you move, you risk making mistakes. Yes, but if you don't move and you watch the pressure build and build, something might break, inside or outside, actually. The point is that there's no neutral ground here and no rewards for gentle patience and good faith that everything will kind of sort itself out all just by itself without you having to do anything. Uranus is going to double down on that atmosphere of having to channel all of that energy this month into activity, right? Next week on the 25th, for most of you, Uranus is going to roll into Gemini, where he's going to fry your nervous system with a nice jolt of electricity. So that's just going to add more nervous energy to the month. And another thing that comes to mind is that there's plenty of fertile ground for madness this month. And that madness, which can be ingenious, creative madness, as well as sheer stupidity, is going to have concrete consequences. And a lot of us are going to be pushed past our usual limits. But here's the thing. This potential crisis of overwhelm or overload can take us beyond a certain threshold, which could paradoxically bring a clarity that you would never have discovered otherwise. If you experience this kind of overload, allow it to shift your perspective on things and look at it as divine intrusion, if you will. Anything initiated through an Aries stellium is going to be costly. You can't get anything done, and you don't get to peek behind the veil and remain untouched. Something is always exchanged. Your time, your peace, your feelings of stability or your need for stability, and sometimes even a bit of your sanity is going to be sacrificed. So, what do you do with all of this? Stop pretending that you can carefully plan your strategy. This lunation is asking for hands-on jungle work. You cut through the jungle and you'll only understand what this new path is all about after you've walked it. And yes, it will be too late to turn back, but that's the point. Your commitment, your passion, and the activity itself will reveal things to you that nothing else could ever reveal. It's got to happen now, and there's nowhere to hide. And oddly enough, that is actually liberating because if retreat is not an option, then all your energy goes into navigation, into steering the ship while the storm is happening. And I always recommend to go with the flow, but the misunderstanding that people have about going with the flow is that I don't mean, oh, just sit back and relax until the storm blows over or whatever. The point is to stay attentive to the atmosphere. And then, certainly in a time like this, with an Aries atmosphere, you need to grab the wheel with both hands because you're working with something that is already in motion, whether you like it or not. Now, that's all pretty okay so far, but honestly, there's one thing I'm not really looking forward to, and that's the Mars-Saturn conjunction that's perfecting on Sunday. And it's actually a triple conjunction because Mercury is going to be there as well. But the main event is definitely Mars-Saturn. And when two planets meet like that, I like to keep in mind their overlapping meaning because their shared meaning will be amplified through the conjunction. And in this case, we can think of Mars and Saturn both being in the business of getting rid of things, clearing, cutting, ending, removing obstacles. That's what they both do. And together, they're extremely good at it. This conjunction can help us tear down whatever is in the way with deliberate force. And yes, that's going to cost some effort. Maybe it will also leave a mess, but the impact of doing the clearing is so much greater than anything you would have built up on top of the clutter that was already there. And there will be future chances that will allow you to start something or to make space to build something. But this exact configuration, this exact inner and outer pressure or window of willpower will not return. So it's almost as if we're given the choice between two regrets, right? The regret of doing something messy, something imperfect, possibly wrong, or the colder, maybe more enduring regret of not going for it. Which one of those do you think is going to hurt the most and leave the deepest scar? That's for you to decide. But the question is not just, what do I start with this Aries new moon? You can also ask yourself, what do I choose to keep alive? And am I willing to pay the cost of feeding that flame? Not everything that looks like it's dying should be abandoned. Right? It's possible that in the past few months, the flame was low because you haven't been offering that flame enough fuel. Maybe it's not meant to go out. Mars and Saturn, in any case, are not going to like you taking half measures. So if you hold on to something that is still burning, you really commit. But if you decide to let go of something, be sure to replace it immediately and go for it. This is not a time to sit down and figure things out. You really need to find out who you are by what you're willing to act on, no matter what the cost is. All right, that was my short message for you. I wish everybody a happy new moon. Let it be a wonderful month. And come join me for my workshop that starts on Sunday. It's about aversions and its connection structurally with the elements in the chart. And we're going to look really deep into that. You can still sign up if you like at michellesmidheaven.com. All right, I hope to see you in class. And again, happy month. And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.